Hello there. Before this video, make sure to watch part 1, it's the first link in the description. We finished off part 1 with Bail Organa and Darth Vader convincing Obi Wan Kenobi to join them in their fight against the Emperor. Obi-Wan agrees and tells them that he will take them to see Yoda to seek out his guidance. As they leave Obi-Wan's hut, Vader hears a voice in his mind. A name he isn't familiar with. He shrugs it off. It's just his imagination, he thinks, the Force playing tricks on him. He takes a few more steps forward and hears it again. He stops in his tracks and Obi-Wan turns around and asks Vader what's wrong. He tells him that he senses a presence on this planet, but he can't focus on what it is. Obi-Wan looks at Bail. The two know who Vader is sensing. Vader notices their expressions and asks them to tell him what they know. Obi-Wan nods in approval to Bail. He can sense the light inside Vader. He can sense Anakin, a feeling he hasn't felt since before the dark times. Bail explains to Vader how Padme gave birth not to one, but two children. The second one was a boy who was sent to Tatooine to live with his aunt and uncle. Vader drops to one knee. If there was any hint of dark still in him, it has been completely driven out now. He doesn't just have a daughter to live for, but a son, here on Tatooine, his home planet. He looks up at the sky, wondering whether Padme is watching him from above, whether she can see how her children brought him back into the light, where he was meant to be all this time. Vader will make her proud. Bail asks Vader whether he wants to go find Luke and bring him back with them. Kenobi interjects and explains how Owen, Luke's uncle, will not give him up easily. He elaborates to say that for the time being, it is probably best to leave him on Tatooine out of danger until they have a concrete plan for what to do next. Vader obviously wants to go see Luke now, but he knows that it is the right thing to do. Obi-Wan tells the two that Yoda is on Dagobah, in the Outer Rim, and they head there straight away. They land Bail's ship on the swamp planet of Dagobah. Kenobi wonders in his mind if the old master was still even here after all these years. The three exit the ship and stand in the open swamp, each glaring around the terrain to see what they can spot. However, all they see is dense trees and mush. Behind them, a small green Yoda appears, hobbling with his wooden stick. Yoda looks at Kenobi and asks what Vader is doing here. Kenobi explains the situation, how Vader discovered Leia and Luke were his children and how he believes Vader has journeyed back into the light. Vader doesn't know what to say to the old master. He can barely look at him without being flooded with extreme guilt. Yoda asks Kenobi what this has to do with him. Obi-Wan tells Yoda that they both were prepared to come out of hiding when the time was right. He says that there is no better chance now to take on the Emperor. With Vader at their side, his children as well as them, the two masters, would be able to unite the rebellion and draw out other Jedi in hiding to help their cause. Yoda thinks about this for a second and looks at Vader. He calls him by his real name, Skywalker. Vader stares down Yoda, who asks Vader if Anakin is still in there. Vader tells Yoda that he is fully Anakin again, and that his days of darkness, although too long, are finally over. Yoda spends a good moment thinking about it until a voice interrupts them. The voice says, "He is back, Master. I know you can sense it." Yoda and Obi-Wan look up. They know who it is, but the others are unaware and confused. The voice continues to say that Anakin is the chosen one, and although his path has not been straightforward, nothing can stop him from achieving his destiny of bringing balance to the Force. Vader realizes who this voice is and yells out his name. But the voice has disappeared. Yoda looks at Vader and tells him that he senses no darkness within him. He will join them. This is the time to reveal themselves. Now, the four travel back to Alderaan to discuss their plan for the rebellion. Before they begin, a ship lands outside Bail's office where they are meeting. The three Jedi ask Bail if he was expecting anyone else. Bail tells them that he never lost contact with an old friend, and that she was eager to help when she heard of their return. The ship's doors open and out walks Ahsoka Tano. She gets to the door and stops in her tracks when she looks at Vader. She mutters his name and he does the same.
Ahsoka.
Anakin.
She rushes over to him and embraces him. She only senses the light within him. She apologizes for leaving him all those years ago and how she feels responsible for what happened. Vader tells her to stop being foolish and only he is responsible for his past. He thanks her for joining them and she makes her way to Obi-Wan and Yoda, greeting them for the first time in 10 years. Bail gets things underway. He explains how the rebellion ultimately has to be led by the Jedi. The Jedi used to be the beacons of hope in the galaxy, and they can be once more. If the people see that the Jedi are fighting against the tyranny of the Empire, they will rally behind them, as they once did. Ultimately, this is what will unite the various factions of rebels all throughout the galaxy. The first move must be to find and recruit as many remaining Jedi as they can. Bail asks if anyone knows of anything left. Ahsoka speaks first. She says how she knows of Caleb Doom, now Kanan Jarrus. Yoda says how through Qui-Gon, he knows where Quinlan Vos has been hiding all these years. Bail asks Kenobi if he knows of any, but he does not. Vader tells them that the Inquisitors had a lead on Cal Kestis on Corellia, and that Kenobi should find him there. He then says that Gungi, the Wookiee Jedi, is alive at Inquisitor base. Bail tells them that they each need to go find the remaining Jedi, explain to them the plan, and bring them back to Alderaan. Bail says that he will send word to each of the rebel factions and invite their leaders to a meeting on Alderaan, where they will all unite the rebels and begin the rebellion against the Empire. They set off with their respective missions and plan to meet in 1 week's time. Vader makes his way to the fortress on the moons of Mustafar. He knows the Inquisitors will sense the light within him, and he plans to use this to his advantage. Vader's ship touches ground, and the 5 Inquisitors present on the base go to greet him. The Grand Inquisitor at the front goes to acknowledge Lord Vader, but he senses something is off. Before he can say anything, Vader has gripped his body with the Force and pierces him with his blade. Maintaining his speed, he pulls the second sister Reva towards him and decapitates her with one strike. The 5th brother, 3rd sister, and 7th sister ignite their blades with a shocked look on their face. Vader advances and engages all 3. Although it's a 3-on-1, they are no match for the redeemed Dark Lord. One by one they fall as Vader makes his way to the fortress and retrieves Gungi. A week passes and the pivotal meeting that will decide the fate of the galaxy has arrived. The room is filled with various rebel faction leaders from around the galaxy, including Sol Guerrera, Mon Mothma, and Hera Syndulla, all with the same goal of destroying the Empire. Ahsoka, Kenobi, and Yoda were all successful in recruiting their Jedi. Now Quinlan Vos, Cal Kestis, Gungi, and Caleb Doom have rejoined the fight. Bail begins the meeting. He leads by explaining to everyone that only together they can take down and defeat the Empire. Bail says that with the help of Vader, previously an apprentice to the Emperor, now turned good, has helped them recruit the Jedi back into the fight. There are a few mutters in the crowd, with a few yelling out why they should trust him and that they know what he has done. Bail explains that without Vader, none of them would be there. There would be no rebellion, no hint of the Jedi returning to the fight. Now, with all of us combining our forces, plus the Jedi leading us, not only will we be able to recruit more people to the rebellion to strengthen our forces, but also track down every remaining Jedi that will fight for the cause. There are murmurs of agreement and nods within the crowd. The end of the Empire sounds good to them. Vader takes stage and explains to the rebels how Sidious gives the illusion that he spends most of his time at his palace on Coruscant. However, this is to deceive the public, and he spends most of his time at the Imperial Citadel on Biss. Only the closest to the Emperor know this, so it is not heavily defended. If the rebels want to defeat the Emperor, they must attack the planet of Biss. Bail steps up and agrees on behalf of everyone. He elaborates to say how the plan for the coming weeks is to spread word of the rebellion and to seek out other rebel patriots to expand their forces. The raid on Biss will take place in a month's time. Vader will not reveal his betrayal to the Emperor until the last moment and will use this to confirm the Emperor's presence on the planet. Cheers erupt in the room and drown out any attempt at speech. Everyone is given hope, a real chance that the Emperor's defeat is near. In a month's time, the time has come. Vader doesn't regularly check in with the Emperor. Sometimes they go months without speaking. The Emperor always summons Vader, not the other way around, but this time is different. Vader beams Sidious, who asks Vader why he killed the Inquisitors a month ago. But before Sidious finishes, his eyes turn a deep yellow and stares down Vader. He mutters his name, Anakin Skywalker. Vader stands in silence, his mechanical breathing taking over as he attempts to sense Sidious's location on Biss. Sidious explains how he knew this would eventually happen, how he knew the Skywalker blood in him was weak. Vader tells Sidious how his manipulation of a young innocent boy will be his downfall. Vader ends the transmission and leaves Sidious confused until he senses it. The rebellion has assembled its fleet. Their goal was successful in recruiting as many patriots to the Republic that they could. And now that Vader has confirmed Sidious's location on Biss, the time has come to end the Empire. Hundreds of ships came out of hyperspace at once and began firing upon Sidious's fortress. As soon as Vader ended their call, Sidious deployed what defenses he had, but there was no way it could beat the rebel fleet. Sidious ordered for the closest available fleet to make its way to his location, but there wouldn't be enough time. Vader discloses to the rebels that Sidious would attempt to make his escape through his underground tunnel system that goes to the other side of the planet, so this was targeted and bombed first, and blocked. Sidious simply had nowhere to go. He used the Force to evade the rubble crumbling down around him, but eventually one slab of rock would knock him to the ground. In the meantime, the rebels defeat what defenses there are, but then multiple Star Destroyers with TIE fighters emerge from hyperspace and fire upon the rebels. The rebels knew this would happen, so orders were given to a second wave of rebels to come out of hyperspace right behind the Star Destroyers and instantly fire upon them. There is a little skirmish in the orbit, but this wouldn't last long. The few Star Destroyers are no match for the combined Rebel alliance. Meanwhile, Vader makes his way to the Emperor's fortress. He can still sense his presence. He lands and walks to where the Emperor was, his legs crushed by rocks and his left arm simply flattened. He walks to where the Emperor was. He is using all of his Force energy to maintain his body's systems and stop them from failing. When he sees Vader coming towards him, he looks away in disgust. He knows what is about to happen. Vader ignites and stabs Sidious through his chest. He mutters as he pulls his blade out. Thanks for watching part 2 guys. Please let me know what you think in the comments below and leave a like.